Hi, Ms. Baumgartner. Thank you for letting me come down to your classroom and observe for that time yesterday. That was your 6th grade art class, and I have some notes that I took from class that I've shared with you so you had a chance to go over it. And before we get started, I'd like to ask you, is there anything that you, in your lesson, that maybe you thought went really well? Is there anything you would change about your lesson?
I thought, as far as understanding the concept and getting to the marker that I wanted them to get, it went well. But I would reorder the way I introduced things. I would have had them paint first and then get their other supplies. That way there was less of exchange. They were confused on where to put their supplies while they painted. If I would have maybe marked that out in the beginning, they would have been a little smoother.
So in the form of a rubric, or just explain that?
No, in the form of just like the way I had the activities planned. I didn't I had that paint first so that way it could be out of the way and clean.
Because in the class, when they came in, you had an activity where cut out their shoes.
That's from their the urban unit that I discussed with you.
Okay.
They made like urban shoes, and we painted brick walls, so they had to get their shoes put on so I could hang it up.
So what would you have changed? Not from that point, but from after that point?
Not from that point, but the point after, where they got the construction paper out. I would have had them pick out their construction paper after they completed their dot sheets.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. So overall, you think the lesson was successful?
Yeah, no one seemed to struggle. The only people that are behind are the people that left early for math groups.
Because from what I observed in the class, when you said your concern is maybe pace or helping the kids who get ahead, what they do next, the kids are behind, I thought you did a really good job, and I thought you did a good job of organizing it with questions. I'll just tell you some of the things that I made note of. At the very beginning of the class, we both chuckled about the student who threw the eraser, and you addressed his behavior. And I thought maybe that was a pace problem because the student was already finished with cutting out a shoe and needed something else to do, which I think you just addressed, that maybe you would have started the activity differently so it was more organized. And then as I was going through class with you, I noticed that the students were always engaged. No matter what activity they were, that you handed them, or where they were within that activity, they were always engaged. They were always doing something, and you were always the center of the engagement. I thought that was excellent. And when you did give an instruction, you did it with questions. And then when you got to the onomatopoeia section, can you talk a little bit more about that and how you felt about that today?
I felt fairly confident that everyone had a grasp. Even the kid that came in later, he seemed to be struggling with it at first. But when I saw the imagery that people put with their onomatopoeia word, like they had the word crack, and then someone drew a bat that was broken in half with a baseball.
Okay.
I could tell that they were making that relationship, and they understood how to use the word and how to illustrate the word, which is exactly what I wanted them to be.
No, I agree. I thought it went well. And I notated here after the onomatopoeia that as far as pace, when you're doing the dots, 3 students were almost halfway done while 2 had not started. And then you had some students help each other go get some paper from the closet and get moving a little faster. And then as you can tell the abilities of each student, it kind of just almost everybody caught up with each other, and they became at a halfway point. Do you feel, and then after that I thought it was interesting because we're talking about pace, you had to dismiss students to the math portion of MTSS day.
And what's horrible about that is the kids that usually run at a slower pace are also the kids that miss out on 50 minutes of class every week. So everyone else in class has an extra 50 minutes to work, and those are the kids that don't need the extra 50 minutes to work with.
That definitely is a concern.
Sometimes we'll clean up a little bit early after they leave, and I'll let the whole class free draw to kind of make sure that they're not
getting too far ahead.
Too far behind or too far ahead.
Well, I can see what helps with pace. I made some comments. I'll just discuss these. Teacher is constantly engaged with the classroom, setting expectations and goals with the group and individuals. It was constant. I thought it was amazing. I think of our class as kind of being controlled chaos because there's so much going on, but I thought it was very well ran. Teachers aware of individual pace, which was obvious when you talked with certain individuals who were behind, and assisting those who are slower and laying out steps. That's why I noticed when you laid out steps, maybe at the end of that lesson, you said, okay, for those of you who are going to be gone next week, maybe you could do this, and then you made some comments about the ones who completely done the project. So could you go into that a little bit more?
The best thing that I usually do with that is know a kid's ability and what they can finish in a certain time. So I'll give that step to a certain student because I know they can reach that, or that will occupy their time. But it may not give the same step to another one because they'll do it too quickly.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. well, the MTSS students doesn't comment on that again. My other comment I had for your class. Hey, I'm gonna pause this for a minute. I have students that need me. How do I pause this thing? I'll bet it out. Yes.
Okay. What is the easiest way to count 6/8 time?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bring your music in. You have a 6/8 march?
Yeah, the British Isle
Which
Isle
means girl, yes,
Suite
absolutely.
is 6/8 part of it, and then one of the other songs, the whole song is 6/8. The bottom of that one is. Which part is the other part of that song?
So this is in 4/4. Is it the other side that goes in
Yeah,
6/8?
like the very bottom. And then this
So
part's
the
in-
dotted quarter will be like a beat. Beat, beat, ba, ba, da, ba, 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 da,
Well,
ba.
like
1,
on
2, 3,
mine,
4, 5, 6.
on mine I rest 6 measures and then 12 measures
1,
and then like 4.
2, 2.
Okay, that's what I was
3,
gonna. Okay,
2.
because
4,
I have to
2.
rest. And I'm just like,
Yeah, you're just counting the 2.
I don't like lose my
I
count.
feel the pulse of that. Alright, cool.
Okay, cool. Thank
Hey, you
you.
guys going back to class? You still listening?
We're done.
Okay.
I'm not listening,
Alright.
listening but.
Cool.
Alright, thank you.
Not all the way shut, just almost all the way shut. I can still hear all the bozos out there. Thanks. Okay. So as I edit my video, I have no idea where we were. We were talking about the MTSS, the PACE.
Giving students like individual instruction, like allowing some students to get to certain steps, because I know that it'll take them longer, so I have them go ahead and start like Ken. Go ahead and have them start on the next steps.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. So you were talking about PACE, and we were talking about
Turn it on.
yeah, it is. I couldn't pause it. So we were talking about PACE.
Edit this out.
Yeah, Cindy's got some nice iMovie software I don't use. I made the comment that I didn't think PACE was an issue. I thought it was pretty well, and you made a comment that that's because just wait until the next portion of the
Wait until
project.
the end.
Okay, so what do you think's going to happen then?
Towards the end, the boys that were sitting closest to you,
Okay, in the back of the room by me.
red or the orange
Mhm.
table, they will, even after you left, they already started cutting out their letters, which wasn't a step I gave them, so they were actually in trouble. But because they think they've reached those steps, but they'll rush through everything and then realize they forgot something. That's why with them, I'm always constantly over them, like, just go to this step, just go to this step. Because they'll get so far ahead that they'll be done by Thursday.
Okay, is this a project that mirrors other projects? Like there's always a certain step that we follow. Each project has a certain steps, the same steps.
The only thing that's the same that I start out with every project is always do rough drafts, always do sketches first. So they have to turn in small sketches. You should have saw on all their tables they had small white pieces of paper.
Okay.
Those were their small sketches.
Oh, okay.
And
I did
that's
see
what
that.
everyone does that the first day, the whole entire day. If you finish, you do more. You never do just one sketch. It's like writing a paper. You don't turn in your rough draft. You draft over and over and over again. So that's how we start always. But once they're going to their final, which is now like working on the actual final project, that's where these steps, they're different because we've never worked with multiple multimedia before. We've
Okay.
never done that.
All right. One last thing I'd like to ask you is, we mentioned briefly in our pre-conference about the student who sits at the orange table or in the middle of the room. So how did you feel about him today?
Ken did okay today. He wanted to finish really early. I could tell he was like rushing stuff. Anything that's monotonous, he doesn't really have the attention span for. So making those repetitious dots.
So is he a student that gets ahead or behind?
He's a student that will get ahead, but he's not finished.
Okay. How do
Does
you?
that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. He may get ahead, but it really wasn't.
Like he gets
Didn't
ahead
do the
because he'll
work.
start out strong, then he rushes it towards the end, and it doesn't really make sense, or it's only halfway completed, but he's done. He's over it.
Well, since this is your first 3 months as a teacher, what have you learned so far with that students like him?
Students like him, I realize if I just say little things at a time, like kind of like little tiny goals, then he'll focus on that one thing instead of the whole project in
Makes
general.
sense.
I'll be like, let's focus on, like he drew a dog once, and I was like, how about the nose? How about the eyes? Because if I would just say, draw a dog, you do it in 2 seconds. But once you pick out those individual things, it kind of slows him down.
Slows him down, so he has to think about it.
Slows him down so
Okay.
he thinks about it. Because everyone else thinks about individual parts. He's thinking of it as a whole.
Okay. Well, thank you, Miss Baumgardner. Thank you for letting me come down to your class. Is there anything you'd like to add before we finish?
No, I appreciate your input.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.